I am not letting you live this down, bro. No way, not a chance. I know there will be many people in the comments going, hey, Lego, what are you doing? Like, why are you taking this one player's grand moment and making it about somebody else? What's the point of doing that, you Vancouver fan trying to make everything about Vancouver? But again, this is why I'm making this video. I don't want to let this live down. I don't want to see this fade away into the sunset. I wanted to go out there and talk about something that I saw pop up all over my social media feed, especially Twitter, about half a month ago. This was from around the midway point in March, and it was sort of gaining traction in a lot of Vancouver Canucks fan-base discussions that I felt like it was sort of a topic that we could talk about. It's just, we never really got the chance to. However, because the guy had himself a pretty noteworthy accomplishment last night, I think it's now time to go out there and talk about the Edmonton Oilers and their first overall pick. Or one of them, at least. Let's head over to... Now, before we get into this conversation, I will say the Canucks do have a game later today against the Chicago Blackhawks at 7, and like the past 2 games, I don't know if I'm free. I may have plans to do some other community center hockey stuff, and if that's the case, then unfortunately I wouldn't be able to watch the game. I won't be able to make a video about it afterwards as well. But the Canucks have been on sort of a cold streak anyway, so it's not really like there's anything worth talking about in these games, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, no promises on whether or not there'll be a post-game video after the Canucks and Blackhawks game. But today what I wanted to do is also talk about a guy on the Oilers. Let's head over and talk about the most recent 100-point player in the NHL, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The NHL now has 8 players who have scored 100 points this year. They go as follows. Connor McDavid has 148 points, Leon Draisaitl 123, Nikita Kucherov 107, Pastrnak and Mateychuk are each at 103, Jason Robertson is at 101, Nathan MacKinnon is at 100, and then you have the Nuge at 100 himself. Shortly after, you have Elias Pettersson at 97, Erik Karlsson at 96, and Mitch Marner at 95. This is the crop of guys that are at or near 100. There are a few others that are sort of there, but Jack Hughes would need to get 9 more points to get it. Tage Thompson is 10 away, Braden Point is 11 away, so it's not really too likely, but, stranger things have happened, haven't they? Either way, though, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is the latest guy in the 100-point crew. And I'm going to go out there and be honest with you here, I'm happy for the guy. He's always been a very solid, very thorough hockey player, and he's been through all the ups and downs ever since getting drafted by the team in 2011. He's one of the only remaining first overall picks left, as Yakupov and Taylor Hall are both gone. Sure, you have McDavid that's still here, but Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was always the forgotten one when it came to top Oilers guys. He has always been a pretty good player, posting up 69 points and 61 points in 2018-19 and 2019-20, but never really broke out and snapped that career high in half until this year. In fact, even last season, the guy had 50 points in 63 games played, so this year he's literally doubled his point production. So, for the Nuge, definitely believe me when I say I'm happy for the guy. He is a local kid. He's from the Burnaby area, so of course I gotta support the guys. I went to BCIT myself, so I spent a lot of time in Burnaby as a... I was about to say teenager, but nah, that doesn't really work. I'd spent the latter part of my teens studying in Burnaby, so obviously I'm happy for the guy. It's just, the reason I'm making this video is because a bunch of discourse that I had seen about half a month ago, from Revamp Dev on Twitter. What they did was they posted their top 15 players in the NHL from this season, and, as you can imagine, it was from 2 weeks ago, it garnered a lot of discussion. You could see there were 50,000 views in this tweet, 174 likes, and 150-ish retweets. You could see the guys' list, and this is all subjective opinion, so it's all fine to go out there and state whatever it is that you feel. McDavid, Pastrnak, Draisaitl, Kucherov, MacKinnon, Thompson, Ullmark, Robertson, Karlsson, Marner, Rantanen, Crosby, Tkachuk, Jack Hughes, and then you have the Nuge. This was a pretty intriguing idea, because you had a bunch of Canucks fans reply to this tweet saying, wait a minute, why is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on here, but not Elias Pettersson? In fact, the first tweet reply from KMAD goes out there and says this same thing. Nugent-Hopkins, but not Pettersson. Find another sport. And the replies go out there and just kind of get into a big argument. You have Oilers fans replying saying, hey man, I'd take Nuge all day. And then you have a lot of Canucks fans saying, wait a minute, no, you're nuts, dude. What are you talking about? And for the next few days, I saw a whole bunch of conversations on my Twitter timeline, kind of just gaslighting the entire Pettersson versus Nugent-Hopkins argument. Nugent-Hopkins has more points, Pettersson has worse teammates, etc., etc. So what I wanted to do is break it down here, just kind of go over my thoughts on both of these guys, and ultimately boil down the conversation as to who I would have instead. Now, long story short, my answer is Elias Pettersson. I think he's the better player. I think he's more dynamic. I think he's more commanding of what he does out there on the ice. I think he's got more of an X factor to his game than Ryan Nugent-Hopkins does. And I know a lot of Oilers fans will go out there and defend their guy. It's natural. And there's a good reason for it. The guy has a 100-point year. The guy has played the best hockey of his career this season. Sure, he's getting fed by guys like McDavid and Draisaitl once in a while, but there's no denying the fact that Nugent-Hopkins today is much better than Nugent-Hopkins of last year or 2 years ago or even 3 years ago when he had that 69-point year. It's just, to me, Elias Pettersson is a game-changing #1 franchise superstar to be, if he's not already. And it all boils down to perspective. You've got Connor McDavid, who leads the league and the Oilers with 140-something points. Nugent-Hopkins is 40 points behind him. And you've got Pettersson, who's got like a 20-point lead on JT Miller or something like that. The one and only limelight that has subsisted throughout the entire Canucks season, through the bad Boudreau days to the good Tocchet days to the decent so-so Tocchet days that they're on right now, has been Elias Pettersson. He has been consistent. He has been dominant throughout this entire year, despite the fact that the team around him has been really bad for good stretches of the season. Pettersson has taken over this team. It's his team now. And you could see that on every shift. He is so dangerous. He is so dynamic. He makes things happen in a way that I don't see out of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The Nuge has a point lead on PD right now, and if the season finishes off, and that's ultimately what happens at the end, hey, Nugent-Hopkins has more points, and even if Nugent-Hopkins has improved his two-way game, he's improved his vision, he's improved his passing, he's improved his mobility this season, I don't think in a million years I'd take Nugent-Hopkins over Pettersson, especially if we're talking about long-term, because Nugent-Hopkins is 6 years older than the guy as well. So, for me personally, it's kind of a moot point to bring up, oh, who would you rather have, Petey or the Nuge? Even for this season, I'd rather have Petey. The guy has taken a step in Vancouver Canucks hockey that we have not seen taken since the Sedins, and you could even debate that Pettersson right now is more individually talented than either of the Sedins had been. Now, that's a difficult stretch to go out there and make because each of the Sedins were so good at different parts, and part of the reason they were so phenomenal dominating the league was because when they were together, they had this innate and unique chemistry that no other two players in NHL history ever seem to have had. But from a pure talent point of view, Elias Pettersson may be the most talented Vancouver Canucks player in this sweater since, I don't know, Pavel Bure, Marcus Naslund, take your pick. I mean, not to disrespect anybody from the Sedins or whatever, but Elias Pettersson is so dominant that we are on the cusp of seeing something great. And if he goes out there and gets 3 points in his last 5 games, then he'll get 100 points as well. He'll be the first Swede to get 100 points since Daniel Sedin in 2011. Yeah, that hasn't happened for any Swedish player since then. And of course, the first Canucks player since 2011 to get that done too. Of course, knock on wood, everything goes down the way that we want it to, unlike cough cough JT Miller's 99-point season last year. But either way, Pettersson versus the Nuge. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your opinions about this idea? Who would you rather have on your team for this season as well as for the long term? I know a lot of Oilers fans are going to come out here pissed off that I made your video about Nugent-Hopkins getting 100 points all about Elias Pettersson, but this topic was sort of in the oven for a while. It was cooking. It was kind of there. It was just sort of in the background of my mind, which is why now I felt like it was a good opportunity to go out there and bring it up. So thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.